Welcome everybody to the first live secret podcast. This is super weird for us. Thank you all for coming out. I have no idea how many people are here. It's much more than San Francisco, which means East Coast is the best coast. So with us today, we've got Bradley Hodges. Hello. John Fraser, the owner of the company. And Brian Zinn, the only successful treasure hunter here. We're going to start with a little bit about, I know all of you have taken a tour of the park, gotten a little bit of its history. John, I kind of wanted to know from you, what was your history of the hunt in this park? How did you find out about it? And you seem to kind of really like it. What draws you to the hunt?
Well, I found out about the hunt in 2004, 2005, when two ladies came through the gift shop and had flown down from Ohio and had read about it and shared it with one of our employees.
Those two ladies are,
Yep.
Where are they? Kim and Nadine.
Kim and Nadine.
Right there.
Back over here. We just flew down from Ohio. So, they got me all excited about it, and we walked around. We talked a lot about man-made structures, and and again, the whole idea about penetrating the ground, since it had only been done by archaeologists, kind of got to me. So after the initial, well, gosh, we didn't find anything. I got a copy of the book here, and one of the originals, and it just became obsessed with it. Everything from mirrors to magnifying glasses. At lunch, an hour a day, I'd go with it, and for years and years, did not attempt to find anything by putting anything in the ground, but rather chose to try to figure out where it was by using the illustrations and the verses. And it's maddening. And sometimes I had to put it down, just let it go for a while. I have 3 kids, I have a wife, I have other avocations, I have a job here, and other responsibilities. So it will drive you crazy, and you have to kind of take a step back and clear your head and then go back, which leads you to this and eBay. Gosh, eBay is just a treasure trove of information. That's where I am right now. It's still looking, but those ladies got me into it, and I curse them I'm just kidding. It's a lot of good. I appreciate it. It's led to a lot of great friendships.
So the Fountain of Youth is one of the only parks that's open-ish to hunters. You're fairly welcoming to people to bring in their solutions, to even let them dig in your park. What's the park's philosophy behind that? Why?
Ooh, well, let me tell you. The park is owned by me, my 2 sisters, and my brother. We rule things by decree and in board meetings. I was intrigued with it, and the folks that I was meeting that were doing things the right way, writing the letters, making the phone calls. Initially, it worked out really, really well. It was very manageable, because from 2004, when Kim and Nadine came by, until 2010, I think I had 3 people in 6 years contact me about this. So, it was pretty easy, and most folks were pretty nice about the whole thing. And then around 2010 or 11, folks started coming. I would guess I can just say when the park was closed. I don't really know how they got in, fence, water, whatever, but they were here illegally, and we would come in and find broken sprinkler pipes and all kinds of damage. And that's when things started to get a little bit more difficult. And then Brian Price, Josh Gates, when we did the first Expedition Unknown, it really got crazy. And what we try to do is, we're at the point now where we ask folks to submit in writing. If you submit in writing, they go on a stack, essentially. We have probably about 10 right now that are unread. We have 5 or 6 in the state of, yes, we're going to allow it. And then we have others that, and it's really strange, because if folks make mistakes about things that they're basing their theories on, landmarks that weren't here back then, I'll actually call them on the telephone and try to very quickly explain what's wrong with the theory that they have, and that's a very easy thing to do. But as long as we can kind of control that to where the digs are, and the archaeologist, Dr. Deegan, or the archaeologist of the city of St. Augustine says that this area is cleared for that sort of thing, then I'm more than happy to help anyone in any way realize their dreams. I think everybody here is hunting for some kind of treasure. It doesn't have to be this in the ground or gold or silver. It could be a great family life. It could be something intangible. But I think everybody here has had the fever for something at some point in time. I'm not saying it's good, I'm not saying it's bad. I'm just saying, but I know that everybody's wanted something, and if I can facilitate someone else's dream for however long it is, then I've always looked at it as a good thing. It's a good thing, and that's why I continue to do this. And sometimes it gets a little maddening, but I still do it. I still do as much as I can. And there are certain times of the year it's better than others. The fall is great, spring and the summer bad, because we have so many people that are here, and you definitely don't want to be digging and have a train go by and go, hey, what are you digging for? Yeah. What are you digging for? And then you have to explain it, and it's treasure. Oh, let me show you. It's really great. It's these things,
And then every red train tour that comes by,
please don't do
there's a treasure buried there.
Oh God, here it comes. But anyway, hope that answers it.
It does. So let's see. You talked about the damages, and we've seen a lot of damages to a lot of different parks. Yep. What's some of the more troubling things that you've seen in this park?
Well, overwhelmingly, the number one is sprinkler pipes. And it's funny, I told you I was going to have a sprinkler pipe here, because we had one that had three separate holes in the same pipe, and they were perfect. I don't know if they were using a drill or what, but it was zzz. And my manager he was kind of upset about it, and he brought it to me, and of the idea that we should probably shut this down. And I said, no, these are the bad guys that are doing it. But sprinkler pipes, number one. Number two is the iron gates are damaged. I can't imagine someone wanting to climb the iron gate instead of a fence, or coming in here by this, because the iron gate's got the spikes on it, and if you slip, it's going to really hurt. But the wall is sharp with the oyster shell, so I guess you got to kind of weigh the risks on that. But that's it. Trash that's left behind. People have left me little bits and pieces of things, because a popular place to jump the fence and dig is actually along the fence, because if you stay low, no one's going to see you. And so they come in, they check out all the magnolias, because they're big trees, and the oaks that are on the inside. Around the restroom is probably the number one place that gets looked at, and unfortunately vandalized and trashed. And there's a little alcove in one of the trees, and I had this one thought about 10 years ago. I said, if they'd have buried the casque in an oak tree or a magnolia in the ground, there's a chance it could have scarred it, and so years later maybe it would have grown around it. And so I found it, and I found this one tree, and I said, man, this is it. This has got to be it. And so I look in there, and I start cleaning it out, and somebody had put a beer bottle right in the tree and was sitting right in the elbow of the tree. And I looked at this and I went, yeah, this was their way of saying, hey, it's here.
Wow. So anyway, I'll tell you. So anyway, all right, so we talked about that. I guess we should transition to some questions, because there are a lot more people here than I thought were going to be here, and I'm assuming you guys are going to have a lot of questions. Do you have any questions for Brian or for John? Anybody? Right here.
I have a question. Was the guest book, was it available in the 80-81? Can you repeat the question?
The gentleman's asking was the guest book available in 1980-81? And the answer to that is probably not. And the reason, as I mentioned before, insofar as the park structure was concerned, is that the park was being run by banks, accountants, and other non-business folks. And that probably would have been one of the things that would have gone by the wayside. Now, my father reinstituted it sometime in the mid-'80s, but I got to be honest with you, I don't think that it was here at all. I really don't. Virtually all archival, anything that was archival virtually stopped in 1965 when the banks took over. And we just didn't, and it was the Southeast Bank, just want to let you know, but they went bankrupt. So I guess they didn't run themselves very well either. So anyway, Anyway, I can't believe I lost my train of thought on that one. But so it wasn't here. It wasn't here until much later.
But even if it was, there's just no way that Byron Price would have written his name in the guest book. Because he used to go to cocktail parties, and when people would ask him if you've been here, if you've been there, he would be careful never to say where he's been.
I thought maybe an alias, or a pen name might have been used.
John Jude Palladino.
Yeah. That's a good question. I don't think Byron even had a pen name, did he? Everything that he published or everything that he wrote was under Byron Price.
Yeah.
I don't know. Anyway, I'm sorry. Yes.
You answered one question about the sundial, because the years pass and rain fall. I thought maybe some of the sundial, some kind of something to mark the years passage. Was there ever any kind of rain gauge, anything like that? Or
No rain gauge at the time. No, it would have been too. We probably experimented with it back in the 50s. I'd say it would have been my dad and my grandfather, and then sometime maybe in the late 80s, early 90s. But it would have been so short-lived that it was here today and gone tomorrow. That was it.
There used to be a compass, a sundial rather, and the sundial said, "Grow old with me, the best is yet to be." And some people, including myself, think that refers to years past. And right near it was a fountain that used to be two kids with an umbrella, and the fountain looks like rain falling on the umbrella, so that could be years past rainfall. George had the idea, because George used to live here, that years past is the stickers that they would put on the telephone poles.
Yeah, little metal inspection tags.
Yes, and that could be the years passing, that they passed inspection.
The inspection tags, what they were they looked like little footballs, right? Mm-hmm. And they would have the year that a telephone pole was inspected, and then it would have whether or not it passed or it failed. And you would never see the ones that failed because they would replace the pole. But they were little football-shaped tags that they nailed into the phone booth, and it just said the year that it was inspected, and then it would pass. And they would cover the telephone poles because they would never remove them.
Yeah.
So it would be literally years past.
I do want to say one thing about the fountain that you're talking about, and it's really good. I have to tell you that the original fountain with the boy and girl with the umbrella was right pretty much where you're sitting. It literally was right underneath you. This was added in the year 2013, and the reason that we did this, of course, is to have a place for the Fountain Youth 500th celebration, and it was dug up. There's nothing that was underneath it, but the general area was dug up, and then it was filled to raise it up. But it was here. It was here for a long time, and then at some point in time, again, I don't know if it's the 80s or the 70s. The fountain was taken from here down to the oldest wooden schoolhouse and was placed in front of the oldest wooden schoolhouse.
It's still out there, isn't it? Or it's moved around, but it's
what's
close.
left of it, man. I'm telling you, folks go up there with a baseball bat. I don't know if they think that they're feeling threatened, and they just beat the hell out of it, and things fly off of it, and not so good. But anyway, it was a great, it's a real iconic statue. But you're right.
Did you sell yearly passes to the Fountain of Youth in 1981?
No, we sure didn't. No. And
the fountain we just walked by with the sundial where it was, did the fountain kind of trickle down like it does now where there's multiple holes and it kind of drops like rainfall? The original one?
I'll tell you something, when you walked out of the globe, you would smell, you get this initial incredible sulfur smell, and you would hear what sounded like rain, and it was the spot. And the water came out through the top, and it trickled down on this ivy-like plant. I really don't know what it was, because frankly I was 18 years old and didn't care. But it made a hell of a lot of rain sound, and you could stand there and you close your eyes and it really did sound like rain. And it was right there. It was literally right there between the sundial and the fountain behind, which again was larger, and there was dirt around the outside of it. Vines grew up, and that's where they got their sustenance to grow and be bushy. Cause people like me to have to go cut them from time to time.
And for the podcast audience that isn't here, kids didn't hear the question before that. It was whether or not annual passes were sold to the park.
Yeah,
and John verified no, they were not.
Oh, yes, so we should repeat the question.
Yeah, we'll do that. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
All right.
I have a question for you. When you found your treasure in Cleveland,
Yes.
how long from when you started really getting into it to when you found it? How long was that span of time? And then also how hard was it, or how easy was it after you found it, where you're like, oh my God, like we all probably think when they found Boston and stuff like that, how easy it seems after the fact. Every single one of them, you know what I mean?
Right. Well, the question was, how long had I been working on it before I found the treasure in Cleveland? I bought the book in 1982 when it first came out in Philadelphia, and I didn't find the treasure until 2004. So, and once we were there, my friend Andy came with me, and Andy hadn't been working on it at all, but I had shown him all the clues and everything, and I convinced him to come with me, and we went to Cleveland, and everything fell into place when we got there. Oh, this is it. These are the 7 steps up you can hop. Everything that was in the verse and in the picture, it all matched. And it wasn't easy, though, to find it. And it took Andy because one of the instructions in the Cleveland verse is 10 stones from right to left. And so standing at the back of the wall, looking at the wall, if you go right to left, that's where we dug, and I was digging for 5 hours and couldn't find it. And I just was exhausted. I sat down and I just said to Andy, it's not here. And Andy picks up a probe, walks to the other side of the planter, and in 5 seconds he hits plexiglass. And we still don't know why it said right to left, maybe if you're on the other side of the wall, but sometimes you need a little bit of luck to find the treasure.
Or a new set of eyes.
Yes, a new set of eyes, right?
How long of a period of time, when did you first figure out it was in Cleveland? Like, how long was it before, when you figured out it was in Cleveland until you dug in Cleveland?
It was in 2004. Thanks to the internet, you could start doing searching and stuff like that. And one of the lines of the verse for Cleveland was Socrates, Pindar, Apelles, the 3 names. And I had Googled those names. I had Googled them for many, many months and found nothing. And then one day, someone else on the bulletin board site that we were on actually found something. A new website had gone up by the Cleveland Memory Organization, where they just decided to type in on their website all the names that were on the Cleveland wall. And so that's how Socrates, Pindar, Apelles came up, and you just click on that, and you click on a picture, and there is the image right there. The image that I had looked at for 22 years, that I had burned in my mind, was suddenly there on my computer. And that's when I ran to Andy and said, "You're coming with me."
Can you talk about the process from that point when you reached out to the parks and you told them what you found and getting the permission and going up there? Can you talk about that?
Oh, yeah, sure. Well, we had to get permission to dig because, I'm not one of those people that jump fences or anything like that without permission. So I contacted, it took a while to figure out who was in charge of the garden, and it was, I believe, the Hellenic Preservation Society. And so we contacted them. I had to send them the pictures. I had to convince them about this whole thing. And they loved the idea. And they said, sure, come on down. And so Andy and I went to Cleveland, and they brought shovels with them, and they helped us. And it was just great.
And the video we posted yesterday, they looked like they were actually excited about it.
Yes, yeah. So it was great. And after we found the treasure, I made a donation to the Hellenic Preservation Society for all their help.
That was nice.
So.
My question, when you read this verse compared to other verses, we don't have anywhere in there where it's, take 10 steps here, hop over here, do this, do that, which it seems like other ones do.
Right.
So in my mind, I'm telling myself, maybe this was his first one, his first chapter, his first. So maybe they've changed over, once he went through 12 of them.
Mm-hmm.
But I just didn't know what you think when you read it compared to the others.
Okay. Well, the question was, what do I think of this verse, meaning St. Augustine, as compared to the others? Because it doesn't have steps or anything like that. And as John was saying before, the word casque comes from the Fountain of Youth. And casque is actually the name of a helmet. A Spanish helmet is called a casque. But the way that it was written on the sign here, it makes it sound like it's a container. And I think that's where Byron Price actually misconstrued what a casque was, and he used that. And I do think this was probably the first one he did. I think Cleveland, ironically, was the last one because he needed John Palancar's help for suggestions as to where to dig. So I think they were just trying to figure out, because how they, this whole thing is about immigration and different areas of Europe and the world would come to the different towns. And this was the Spanish, supposedly the Spanish people came here to the St. Augustine, and that makes sense because of Ponce de Leon. And so The Secret has the Spanish theme with that picture. And the Greek theme is the one that goes to Cleveland, and that was probably the toughest one because Greeks really didn't settle in Cleveland, so they had to figure out, it was like the last thing, and they had to try and figure out what could we use that's Greek in Cleveland. And so that's why they picked the Greek Cultural Gardens, in my opinion.
See,
I think it's everywhere. I mean, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
But when you had to go through different parts of town to get to where you were.
What do you mean, different
Like
parts
when
of
I'm
town?
reading, well, like here we could start at Anastasia at the quarry, and then it could lead us to here, and then it could lead us to the 0 mile marker at the visitor center.
The entirety of the Cleveland verse happened within 100 feet of the end.
Really?
It started about 100 feet from the end, right?
Yes. Yeah, well, some people think everybody interprets it differently,
Yeah.
A lot of people think Beneath Two Countries refers to a tunnel that is farther away, like a mile away.
But it's on the same road.
Right, right. And so some people have prescribed to the theory that he takes you on a tour of the town
Exactly.
and then comes to the dig site. Other people, who knows, but I could tell you out of the 3 treasures that were found, none of us went on a tour. We just basically came to the thing because we saw everything fell into place. So it could be that he's taking you on a tour, but you don't need that, in my opinion, to do it.
Yeah, I fall into the category, and I haven't found one, obviously, so this is just my thoughts. I fall into the category that's Cleveland, Boston, that they're spot puzzles. They're not travel puzzles. So everything is within that one spot. The painting, the image, gets you to the city. You have, the Water Tower in Chicago. You have the Terminal Tower in Cleveland. So those are just confirmers to let us know, okay, this is the town that it's in. But when you go into the verse tells you seek the columns for your search. Okay, well that's our image matcher, right? We have the columns matching in the image, and then it tells you just specific instructions. Once you find that spot, this is what you need to do. And it was really fun to watch that video. See you guys walk through that. We do have an online question for John, and I'm not familiar with this, but Arian, sorry if I said your name incorrectly, Arian Williams asked, what is the significance of the alligator skulls on the tree bases? What do they mean? How long have they been there? And is there a history with their distinct placements within the park as a whole?
Well, that's a good question. They are a very recent occurrence. We started about 7 years ago with one Native American who was a Cree Indian, and he came in. He did a great job. He passed away. He had one chickee hut. That was it. We got so many letters, and he had so many condolences that we decided to do it again. And so we invited members of the Cherokee Nations to come in, and they expanded. And as they expanded, we expanded. And we now have another gentleman who works very closely with a number of Native American tribes, including the Seminoles, probably the closest one to us, and elements of the Cherokees. And they do pretty much what they want over there. And it's been within, we don't try to micromanage what it is that they do. They have their own presentations. We just ask that they stay as close to what we do know about the Timucua. And that's kind of what they do. So when you ask a question about the skulls, I can tell you that they were not there 7 years ago. They definitely were not there in 1981. Insofar as their significance is concerned, I honestly have absolutely no idea. I know they ate alligators, so you got a lot of alligator bones after you get through eating, and that could be a part of it. It could be part of of a religious ritual. I really don't know. I don't know, and I do not know why they're there, except that it's part of what they would have gained, the game that they would have caught and eaten.
Thank you.
Does that answer? Okay.
Oh, I hope so. That's their question.
Okay.
Question for Brian. When you took us to the casque and the broken key, there was an Allen wrench in the key. Did you ever check the pieces of the rest of the casque to see if there was metal in it?
The question was, is there metal in any part of the cask? Because my key had what looks like an Allen wrench in it. And no, there's no metal in any part of the cask except there's a mermaid, I believe, on top of the cask, and she has like two little metal antennas sticking out. So.
You took a metal detector to all the other pieces to see if there was anything?
No, I was just looking at the hundreds of little pieces that I have. So there's nothing sticking out that's metal. Yeah.
But the metal that is in the cask, it's very, very small. It's a tiny.
Like a 50 millimeter.
Yeah, it's a tiny.
That was smaller than
And the weird thing is that my the lid of my cask doesn't have anything in it other than it's ceramic. But the one in Boston that was found apparently has burlap in it supporting it. If you've seen a picture of that one, so that's very strange that his was made with burlap and the Cleveland one wasn't.
a different person obviously made the casque. We're assuming.
To expound on that, you want?
It doesn't matter.
Yeah, to expound on that, so if you look in the front cover and the thank yous of your book, you'll see a thank you to a specific name for the owner of the company that made the replicas of the casque. So the original casque was made by artist Joe Ellen, and then they hired a company to make replicas of that. And we did a little research on that company, and we found that that's exactly what they did to reinforce them. They put burlap in other structures that they made. For instance, they did figures for an Easter egg hunt. And we found an article where they wrote, it's reinforced with burlap so that the kids can climb all over it and they won't break. So we know that was a known technique. What we don't know is why is one different than the other. So that's still a question to be determined.
I asked a couple of artists, and what they came up with was the casques are really strange. They were poured, the ceramic was poured in a strange way, they were fired in a strange way, and they were carved in a strange way. And those three strange ways caused them to have tiny air bubbles in the surface and then on the inside, where the casque is poured. It had air bubbles. If you fire something like that with air bubbles in it, it's going to crack. So it's likely what happened was they made some without any metal in them, and they made a couple of them, and then one cracked. And they were like, oh, this doesn't work, so we need to reinforce it with something. So they threw some metal in it, and they made a couple more until one cracked. And they realized it didn't work, so they tried maybe burlap. It seemed, but because there's not just 12 of these made. We know there's just about everybody that worked on the book has one. Byron had two, I think, one or two. Anyway, so there's a lot of these casques, right? And there would be a long process between making number 1 and making number 20 or whatever. So that's likely why there are variances. They found problems along the production line and tried to fix them in the next set.
Does Rob's have burlap?
Rob's doesn't. We don't know.
His is still in one piece.
Yeah, Rob's isn't broken. We know he has metal in the antenna, the same as yours. That's about it.
Right.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, John, this question's for you. The canoe out there. I didn't hear you mention that. How long has that been there?
The canoe?
The canoe.
You're talking about the one way in the back? that's new, right? You
Yes.
guys just built that?
Yes, brand new. That was built by the St. Augustine Maritime Foundation. You talking about the big chalupa?
Canoes or boats?
Oh well, there were two that were that had been carved out. One was in the Native American burial ground, the one that I was standing in front of, that had been blown down. Essentially been damaged by Hurricane Irma. The other dugout Cypress canoe was on the grounds on the other side of the rebuilt mission. So on the other side of the mission, on the pathway, there was one there for 25 years.
Have any of those areas been dug or probed or looked at?
No, and the reason those two areas haven't been dug is the one was in the burial ground, and that's just something that's just completely off limits because it hasn't been dug, except by archaeologists. And then the other one would have been pretty much right where the original mission church, the first mission church, is. That has not been archaeologically excavated. It's just really hard for me to imagine. I think that the canoe could be part of it. I have a friend of mine that believes that a boat of some kind is part of the saw.
Base of a tall
Yeah, that's yeah.
tree, so you make a-
It's funny you say that because that's yeah.
I didn't know if anybody went there with
Yeah,
that.
base of a tall tree. That's it. But as to whether or not, yeah. Well, he looked at it, and that was the first thing that popped into his mind, and that's where the canoes were there on the in a really very very sensitive archaeological area, and I haven't looked.
In 1981, no, that was a very
Oh, yeah.
sensitive area. not
Without
so-
question, because the burial grounds were open at the time, and you could literally walk in and you could see 100 fully, uncovered Native American burials right there. And then on the back wall, you just see the black and white photographs of how the digs would have looked in 1934 when it was begun. So, yeah, I know no one's actually done it over there. No.
Mr. Zinn, for you.
Brian.
Sorry. Your casque had one of the 12 creatures painted on it.
Yes.
Have you personally been able to make any connection to a fairy in the book to your painted
Well,
character?
okay, the question was if there's a connection with the character that's painted on the casque. My character is a centaur. So that's the Cleveland picture, is the centaur standing on the arch. And the Chicago one is a troll, I believe, which I guess is what the guy's face is I think that's the face of a troll. And for the Boston one, we figured out, I think, that it's possibly a leprechaun or something like that. And, that's sort of like well, I don't know. But I don't know. We can't really tell what's on the casque in Boston.
So what you're saying is you're thinking with the two found, Chicago and Cleveland, they more reference the photo rather than any of the fairy folklore from the rest of the book.
It's hard to tell because centaurs are Greek, so it could be that it's both in my case, in the Cleveland case.
Speaking to one community member, they proposed that the Boston was maybe possibly Geppetto, and that would tie with Italian.
Oh, okay. Yes, that's good. So I actually have the casque with me. We're going to put it out here, and you guys can come look at it when we're done.
Just please
So-
don't
Touch it, yeah.
Yeah, just don't.
It's already broken enough.
Yes. Is there any other questions? Yes.
You said in the ground penetrating radar, did that just go up to the picket fence or did it go outside of the picket fence?
So the question was about ground penetrating radar. Expedition Unknown did basically that entire area by the planetarium.
Yeah.
And then when I came out with my friend who has a GPR, we did the entirety of the maintenance entrance, and then we did the vast majority of the parking lot area. And we also did along the wall.
Around the statue and then statue and all that?
Yes, we did all of that.
Did we ever show you this?
Yes, last time.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
It was really cool.
I know we have some other questions.
Brian, what do you plan on doing with the gemstone?
Oh,
Oh, well, I already put it in a setting. I put it in a setting back in 2004. You could see it when you come up to look at it, but it's like a fairy, a flying fairy holding the gemstone.
It's a beautiful job.
And the gemstone I got was a sapphire, but I was supposed to get the aquamarine. So ironically, the treasure that I'm interested in now is St. Augustine, which is the sapphire. So if I find it, I'll get the aquamarine.
Well, I know there's a part of the book that says once you find one, you can't find another one.
Oh, is it?
You're out. You already have the pin, buddy.
All right. Yes, sir.
Did you ever have anyone do any tree surveys on the property?
When you say tree survey, what are we talking about?
There's the particular verse about tall trees, and I was trying to see if there's what kind of identification for tall trees, or if there was a survey done.
No, there's been no. The question was a tree survey done? And the answer is no, there isn't. We pretty much just eyeball what's there, and unfortunately, as I've mentioned, we have had a number of storms. The ones that I can remember after having moved back here in 1986 from going to college, we had big ones in 1990 with Floyd. We had a couple in the mid-2000s. We had Hurricane Francis was terrible. I think that was 04, 05. We had 3 hurricanes that year, but the one that really just wiped out, I think, some of the real landmark, the marked trees is Matthew and Irma, which was 2 and 3 years ago. But yeah, there were some old growth, big trees. The real tall ones are still around. The entire of Magnolia Avenue, the pine tree, which was out in front of the restrooms, that was the tallest tree then and is the tallest tree now. And but nothing. No actual survey was ever done.
But maintenance guys, when trees come up here, you guys look for the casque, right? You check the
once we found out about it, once we go, there's a treasure there, we do look at it. We lost probably one of the 2 or 3 tallest oak trees during Hurricane Matthew. It was right there in the corner where you go in the maintenance entrance. It's between the planetarium and the globe. And boy, I'll tell you something, it kicked up a big root system. And it took probably half a day looking through that, just knocking the dirt off. And then, of course, the wall that it knocked out, the coquina wall, because we thought that perhaps he would have put it next to a man-made structure to avoid, messing up flower gardens and that sort of thing like he says in the book. But nothing there. Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
So, what can you tell us about the wind rose? Because we haven't really talked much about that. So, what historically, or did you show us where it was?
Yeah, the question is where was the wind rose back in '81? And to my knowledge, first of all, I do know that the wind rose that is in the planetarium and the walkway that takes you into the auditorium, that was definitely there, and it was definitely in the exact same place as it was in 1981. There were compass roses in several different places. Whether they would call them wind rose, I don't know. But we had one on top of the restrooms up near Magnolia Avenue. We had another one out here around the obelisk. They tried to make a compass rose out of the obelisk, although the stones were quite choppy. I had heard that been referred to as compass rose. I didn't get it, just to take a line out of big, I don't get it. But anyway, that one at the planetarium, it really fits very closely with some of the other verses. So that's probably what he was referring to.
And the one at the obelisk, there used to be some sort of a compass?
Yeah, it was incorporated around the obelisk.
And it's not still?
It's not there. No. All the stones were picked up. Again, in the litigious society we live in, we have to try to anticipate better how people are going to fall and injure themselves. And there were floating slabs that were there, and some of them were up a little bit higher than the other. And the decision was made to pop out the stone slabs, and then to pour tabby concrete around it to where it would be smooth. And that's kind of what's there right now. Yep.
We have another question from online. They're asking, has anyone ever probed the exhibit where the well is? Do you know where the well?
I think they're asking about the fountain.
No, it has not been. That area there would have been one of the few areas of the park that would have had security. And I'm talking about electronic security going all the way back to the 70s. In the 80s, I'm not sure if we brought the dogs back, because we had dogs all the way out in the 50s and the 60s for security. So we would have had electronic security, we would have had dogs. The buildings would have been locked immediately between 5 and 5:30. Same thing with the planetarium, same thing with the Globe. All three of those buildings, and then the ticket office would have had the security on it. So I would have to say that I can't imagine him going into one of those buildings, but no, it has not been.
Yeah, I mean, like the Spring House, I mean, some people may think the Fountain of Youth is kitschy or whatever, but that's legit one of the oldest pieces of history we have in America. Confirmed pieces of history is that cross. I can't imagine Byron, with his love of history, wanting to damage anything around it.
I can't either. I can't imagine that, because that cross, we know for sure was in the newspaper in 1909, St. Augustine Record. We know that it was referenced by Mr. Williams, who had the park from 1868 until 1901, referenced by him. And then an affidavit was attested to by the grandson of Mr. Arnaud, who claimed that the family knew of its existence in the 1700s. So you are talking about a real long time for that. And the building was pretty, like I said, that was the thing that would have been protected along with the ticket office.
So I have a question.
Sure.
So obviously this hunt's very personal to you. And my favorite part of this entire experience are the experiences that I've had with friends and family members since I started the hunt. Yeah. Can you tell me about just your personal favorite experience, be it a dig or anything that you've had since you started?
It's my favorite.
Joe's gonna be like, I met George and that was awesome.
Yeah, you and I had a really interesting first meet.
Yeah.
That was not ever good.
So just so John loves this hunt, but don't take a GPR out in the middle of the parking lot without asking him first and just wandering around with it. Don't do that.
Yeah, not so good. I have to tell you, I get proposals, and I think a lot of proposals. And what I really enjoy the most is the folks that take the most time and they very, very clearly spell out why they believe what they do. And even if I don't agree with them, again, I try to make it happen. And the coolest one, there was a fellow down in Central Florida that wrote me this long drawn out plan. He sent it overnight. It was, when I opened up the overnight envelope, and inside of it, there were the letter had sealing wax, and he'd used a seal ring and put down on it. And that's what I said. I said, awesome, this is incredible. So I opened it up, I looked at it, I read his proposal, I called him on the phone right then and there, and I said, dude, you have to get a shot for this one. I go, really, where do you want to go? And he told me where it was, and I said, okay, that's fine. I said, that's a little close to where my comfort zone. So I asked the archaeologist to come out, and she checked out the area, and she goes, no, this is all fill. A lot of fill, as you can imagine, being so close to the water. And we did. We dug it up. He was there with a couple of friends. He was in his 20s. And he had the time of his life, and I haven't heard from him since. But it was great. I mean, you know what I mean? That was kind of fun. But I will just tell you that on a personal note, as opposed to something that involves someone else. The one thing this puzzle does is it kind of sucks you in, like any kind of puzzle, because you don't really know where everything comes from. You have the group of people that believe that it's really simple. It's right there in front of you, and if you just look at it long enough, and you do this long enough, and you take the mirrors out and all that, it's going to come to you. And I don't disagree with that at all. And maybe it does happen, but there's twists and turns, like the number 4 and the number 2 that you see in this puzzle, and you go, what's that? Well, the cool thing about Google is you can sit there and you can put anything you want in there, and then they come up with all kinds of crazy things because they don't know what you're looking for. Google the number 42 sometime. And the very first thing that popped up was it's the answer to every question in the universe. I said, what the heck is this? And I find out, Douglas Adams, Hitchhiker Guide to the Galaxy. The book's written in 1979, published 1980. And I go, oh man, this guy he graduated from Stanford, degree in communications. This was a really popular book. I really don't get it, but I really don't get it. But you look in here, and I underline all the words and all the phrases that they use in this park, that is in this park and is in his puzzle, and they're in this book. And it just happens to be 42, and it took me there, and other stars and Other references I've seen that led me to get books on constellations. You notice in the puzzle, you can actually look at it and you see red dots. There are red dots on the illustration. They're white dots. And I've sat there and I've tried to put them out and connect the dots and look at our planetarium show, because I remember what the planetarium show was like, and try to compare them with the constellations. And it really is, it gives you it's a personal journey that you have. Mine takes me in a different direction. Brian takes them in a different direction. You all have different ideas and different theories and that sort of thing. That's the great thing about these puzzles, is that they really do take you in whatever direction your mind goes. Because I got to tell you, until I read this book, I probably hadn't read a book in 2 years, 3 years. I guess I read a lot of magazines, read a lot of newspapers, but the idea of reading the book cover to cover, especially fiction, I don't have the time. But I've read about 10 books in the last 3-4 years, and it's all because of this guy. So thank you, Byron, and but it's a lot. But you meet a lot of people, and it's really it's really gratifying to hear, especially again the ones that play by the rules and the ones that have the really serious theories, and families that come in. Some groups, even here today, there've been families that have come in that have dug. I always worry about the kids and all that, but good parents, and it's kind of neat to see them all doing something together. I think he would have liked that.
Yeah, I think John is probably the best of all the remaining guardians, of all the remaining treasures, because he's really into it. And he let me dig when I came here. He let Kim and Nadine dig before me, and I actually had to come. When I came back, he let me dig a second time, but I needed a GPR and a TV show with me. But he was really into it, and it's great that he lets families and friends come here, because that's what this hunt is about. It would be a shame if they were all found, wouldn't it? Because then you'd move on, right? So I hope that they're not all found. I mean, I hope that everybody in this room finds one, but at the same time, I hope that they're not all found.
Brian's like, I hope I'm the first one to find two.
So I saw you earlier, Brian, with a half a phone book stacked in a manila folder. Is that just your notes for the St. Augustine cast, or is that multiple?
Oh, the question is the folder I've been carrying around, what was in that? Yeah, it's about 1 or 2 inches thick of just my St. Augustine research. So
it's more than what I have.
So how did the property come into the family originally?
Well, my grandfather vacation. The question was, how did the property come into my family originally? And my grandfather was born in Flowery Branch, Georgia. Was living in Albany, Georgia, with my grandma. And he used to work between here and there. It was a timber cruiser. They just go and they'd measure the amount of board feet of pine or whatever, oak and cherry. And his travels took him to St. Augustine, and he loved it here. He was educated at Emory University, and he saw the value of history. He loved history, and he didn't think that St. Augustine was doing enough with what it was that they had. And so when the lady who owned it, Llewellyn McConnell, passed away in a car crash, he immediately came in and said, I have to have it. So he purchased it from the husband, who didn't like the bugs and didn't like the heat and didn't like the people, and just said, I just let me out. So he sold it to my grandfather for, I think a song at the time, but that was 1927. And then, he continued to run it until he had a stroke in 1960, and then my father took over, and then the banks, of course, as I was telling you before, had taken over. But the real testimony to my grandfather, and I know this is not what you're asking, but I just want to tell you that in 1930 there was something called the Depression, and the idea that my grandfather kept this place through 10 years of just very, very hard economic conditions, and was able to save it and to be able to thrive after the war, 1940s, keep it through the 50s, and all the shenanigans with the banks, and it's just really, it's cool.
Yeah, that was great.
I appreciate you asking.
Okay. So we talked a lot about the verse itself. What clues are you seeing in the actual painting itself that kind of lead you to believe this is where it's at?
The question was is what clues are in the painting? And this is just our opinion.
It's a giant shape of Florida. To me, I answer this question all the time. You guys can.
Okay, well,
I'll move it to you.
well, thanks to someone named Fox on the Q4T website, we figured out that latitudes and longitudes are in the painting. So you see, this isn't going to be on camera, but in my opinion, this right here and this is the number 30 upside down. See? And there's also an 8 and a 2. See the 8 and a 2? And 3082 is the latitude and longitude of St. Augustine. There are other things too. The flag possibly looks like the pathway that's out by the monument. A million people find a million different things that are hidden in this. I see a cannon. There's a cannon that goes this way. This is the end of the cannon. This is the wheel of the cannon. I think there's also a post right here. And it looks just like the post that's in the corner that I dug in. Let's see, we've got this down here is possibly an overhead view of the island. I don't know what it's called. Anastasia Island. Okay, if you look at a map, you'll see that this matches that. There's just so many things. This is a Spanish helmet, and that's the casque, right? And this is Ponce de Leon, possibly. His vest, if you look very closely, it looks just like the colors that's in the actual Fountain of Youth spring house.
It's also the colors of the Puerto Rican flag, the green and the gold.
Oh, okay. I don't know. Every painting has a clock or a number associated with it. There's no clock in this, but there are 9 flowers, and there are asters, and aster is the flower for September, which is the 9th month, and there are 9 flowers. So I can't think of other things. Some people think this is the monument that's out there. There's an overhead view of the monument, and that possibly it's covering up the castle that's the Castillo de San Marcos. So, and you know, there could be lots of other things hidden in here. This could be the Globe Theater, or over here. There's something called, I think it's called pareidolia. Pareidolia, which is the tendency for humans to just see anything and just see patterns and things. And that's from our hunter-gatherer days. That allows us to survive, but we still have that today.
Well, John, you've been here since you were a child. What do you see in the painting? Do you see anything that we don't, that you haven't heard anyone talk about? What jumps out to you?
Well, the 2 and the 4, or the 4 and the 2 jump out to me. I do see what Brian sees with regard to the latitude and the longitude. I also see it over here, just a couple of small things. This particular area here, if you take a really close look at the Chief Arriba, the Chief Saloy, I believe is referenced over there. It looks an awful lot like the Chief's face. Can't explain the stones at all here. There's an interesting thing here. I don't really understand. This could be a bird. I'm not real sure what this is, but it appears that there's a key hanging from the top of whatever this is. And you can actually see the key. You can see the key on the end of the chain. This here reminds me an awful lot of the burials, the burial grounds, and about how the concrete came around the burial. There are no bones on the inside, so it's hard to say. But I look at that. I look at this as a big team of honey, one of the large, one that we have all over the grounds, and that's what I see. And
right here on the casque, interestingly enough, if you look closely, you can see what would be a reflection of the stone. So you have the stone here, and you also have the stone up at the top. I don't know to what extent that is. If you look, like we're supposed to look at it this way, and the way that he's looking, and incidentally, if you look at the spring house, this right here, right down to the elbow being bent, the head looking down, this is the exact same way the statue is in the diorama. I've had some interesting theories on the brown and the blue. This represented islands. There's again very interesting thing. Down here, this is the stone I was telling you about. What I see here is if you were to go on the water side of the Fort St. John of the Pines, which is right out there, and you stood off to the side where you're looking at the stone this way, and to get down, you would actually see, or would have in 81, you would have seen this palm tree. And this is the only palm tree in that cluster of 3 trees that has been blown down by a hurricane. So it got blown down by a hurricane, and that tree's not there, but it's between the other 2. But you would have seen that, and it's far enough away that there would be no reflection. However, from the water, you have the reflection of the stone, because the water at high tide used to come almost up to the stone. So I see all that. There's, I'm just like you guys. I see gators in there. You could, there've been times that I thought that the fountain, this section here is that hourglass fountain out there in front of the planetarium. I don't know. Maybe not. I don't know. This is an interesting view of the picket fence where you took a picture on a manual. This would be a larger picket.
We left out one of the most important parts is the face on the mountain there is actually an overhead view of the park. The right-hand side of the face is actually the Fountain of Youth Park. If you look at a map.
Archaeological map that you used to have, it's almost perfect.
Okay, that was one we used, I guess, in the 64, where it was.
Yeah, well, the one that we have a picture of is the 97.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
So John Jude Palancar, he's a great artist. He made it look like somebody's face looking up to the sky, but it's actually an overhead view of the park.
Yeah, here, along the line there. It's a little bit different today because of the bulkhead.
Yeah.
Bulkhead. That was different.
Do you think every painting, John, has a location? You know how like Boston had the home plate,
right?
And then Chicago had the 3-post fins, right?
Yep.
And then
I got to tell you, I'm glad you asked that question, but I'm kind of a one-trick pony when it comes to this thing. This is the guy, and this is the guy. You got to talk about that. This right here, I see things in this that maybe y'all wouldn't see. I really do. I can twist it, and I can see magnolia flowers. I can see a magnolia nut. I've used it. I grew up where the White Album, Paul is dead. You turn the album backwards on your photograph, and it says, Paul is dead, McCartney. And I believe, the guy probably has half magnolia nuts in there, and there's probably something else. You just have to get the mirror just right to kind of create exactly what you're looking at. There's a little message there. I found one. And
well, the reason why I asked you is because this is your second home, if not your first home.
Yep.
You see things that these guys or all of us don't see.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, the interesting thing to me is that I see a lot of these Fountain of Youth things that we have here at the park. And when folks come in and they say absolutely positively, it's definitely not here in the park, I look at it and I go, I don't know if that's the stone, that's where it represents, and this illustration represents where it's buried. And to me, it has to be here at this park.
Right.
To me, it has to be. But, is it buried in a flower bed? They say they don't put it in a flower bed. But yours was found in a flower bed, right? I mean,
Kind of.
You're about to start an argument.
The other thing is that it's hard to believe that Byron Price would bury something on private property, but sort of like me and probably a lot of you didn't know that this was privately owned. The Fountain of Youth is privately owned. You'd think it's a public park, and maybe he thought it was a public park.
Well, Boston kind of messed that up for me too. I didn't think he'd bury it in a ball field. Like, why would you disrespect the ball field? Same as why would you disrespect private property? Yeah. So there's a lot of things that we've assumed Byron wouldn't do that Boston shows us he'd do it.
And did you
You're
ever
also
see
making
anything
today's
in the
mentality versus an 80s mentality where it's just kind of whatever, it doesn't matter, you're not hurting anybody.
Yeah. Well, and again, I don't know how much of all that of the tour that you heard, but I promise you this: if you had met my father, if anybody in this room had ever met my dad, you would have either really liked him or you would have really not liked him, and it would have been reciprocal. And so, if this guy either loved this. They got along just swimmingly well, and they answered all the questions and saw the passion that my dad had for history and preservation and all that. And he said, "This is where I'm going to put it, and I'm going to put it someplace where it's really hard to find because I want it to stay here a long time." Or you really didn't like the guy, and he said, "I'm going to confuse everybody by putting all these things here, and I'm going to bury it somewhere else." So to me, it's one or the other. It's either without question there, or there has to be some kind of an exit strategy that says, hey, yeah, okay, St. Augustine, we got a lot of the same things here that are part of the Fountain Youth Park, but it's really somewhere else, like maybe at the base of the cross, the tall tree. I don't know. If you would answer.
So I'm very, very new to this, but I just want to point out that when I look at this, and I have a very data-centric mind, I see that stuff at the top as being very, obviously a whole lot of clues, but my focal point comes down to those flowers at the bottom. And I haven't heard you guys talk too much other than saying it represents maybe September, but I see that as being part of probably the solution for some reason. And I don't know why, but that's where my mind is focusing.
Okay.
Because all the other stuff is like the piece of the puzzle, but the story's being told down below.
I agree with him.
Yeah. Okay. Because I see the big picture of Florida, and then I see it narrowing further. First line in the first chapter, written in water, the water that would come across the ocean, they would have seen this, okay, this is part of the coral flag, or maybe it's our monument, I don't know, the palm trees. And then I just think it just goes there. That has to mean something. The placement of that there instead of there has to mean something. And I don't know what that means, because and this guy has an advantage. He's actually found one, and all of these folks have studied multiple puzzles. That's why I say I'm not your guy. I don't want to get involved in the Charleston puzzle or the Roanoke puzzle or any other puzzle for that matter.
So
this is a lot of fun because it's here in my backyard, but there's just so many other things I've got that I do.
The question was pointing out the flowers. Some people have actually seen the word St. Augustine written in the stems of the flowers, and I've actually seen it myself. It's not too much of a stretch, but it's hard. It's difficult to see.
Yeah, it's difficult to see.
Yeah, it's tough to see. Go ahead. It's your show.
You didn't ask the question.
So you guys are all very obviously committed to the idea of the treasure being in the fountain. Obviously not to say it's not, but how much support would you maybe give to someone who had an alternative theory that it was somewhere else?
Support. That's your
That's my question.
Yeah.
Okay, so.
Say what the question is.
The question is, most of us up here think that this is in the Fountain of Youth. Not all of us think it's in the Fountain of Youth. I'm 50-50, right? So how much support would I give to somebody that had an alternate theory? A lot. Everybody so far has pointed at this painting, and these are clues for whatever. I'm like, just take it, and once you know this is in Florida, you can throw this away. Like that gets you latitude and longitude coordinates, and it gets you a state, and you don't need this anymore. The verse fits really well in the Fountain of Youth, but a lot of the things that fit here fit in a lot of other places in St. Augustine. Like shell limestone, we got that everywhere.
Yeah, true.
Bending branches, they're everywhere. So if you can give me a solution that logically puts you somewhere other than here, I'm right there with you. So far, most of the evidence seems to point to here, but I would wholeheartedly welcome anybody to come up with alternate ideas.
Hey Brian, since you were involved with the Boston Farm, the show in New York, now that Byron's passed away, really you can say that the original solution developed because it's thought that he's the only one that would ultimately know where it is. I however think that's not true, but we'll go with it just for the sake of the sake. Was the casque the only thing that allowed the Boston claim to be taken
Oh, so the question is if you don't have a casque, would you still be awarded a gem if you had something which looked like a solution?
No, I'm saying.
Oh, you're talking specifically.
Oh, specifically Boston.
Factor in the reward, or was it not?
No.
No, that was not, the fact that he had a possible solution had nothing to do with the reward. They had to find the casque. You don't I don't think you'd necessarily have to find the key, but it was sort of further confirmation that it was a casque. Because you can find pieces of ceramic and plexiglass, but it might not be the casque. And we have Mr. Ward here, who has twice found ceramic and plexiglass in 2 different places in the country, and we're still not exactly sure if he found the casque.
Yeah,
so he's not taking credit to his credit, but I can tell you.
If you were up here earlier, you would have seen me and Brian with a bunch of pieces of junk ceramic going, does it match your casque?
Yeah.
Is this the same size?
So it's very close. So he may have found the New Orleans one. He may have found the Charleston one, but we're not sure.
Yeah, and I will never say, this is probably the first time anybody's ever heard that, because I don't like to say it. There's no key. They're still out there. Go look.
Yeah, so.
Go find the key.
For all of the places that were the other three were found, there was all public, you didn't have to pay to get into?
No, all the places were public that were found, the 3 that were found. Right.
Did you have to pay to get into the Children's Zoo in Houston, Brian? Do you know?
Oh, that I don't know. I don't know the answer to that.
So the Houston one, we're pretty sure it was in the Children's Zoo, and I'm not sure if you had to pay to get into that or not.
It's my understanding you had to go into the normal zoo to access the children's zoo.
So you would have had to have paid?
So you would have had to pay.
So
unless you went in through the back, which is what they were talking about when the original podcast was done for Houston. It was apparently very easy to access that area.
Mm-hmm. Easy to access this area too, back then.
Yes.
Yeah.
When you were in New York, I'm sure that there was a lot of other conversations that happened that weren't aired on Expedition Unknown. Was there anything that came to light that you could share with us that maybe didn't make the cut?
The question is when I was filming in New York on the last episode of Expedition Unknown, were there conversations that didn't make the airway? Well, I mean, we were there all day, so yes. John Palancar was great at telling very funny stories. One thing that I don't think aired is that in the Boston painting, we were wondering why the bubble next to the bird was there, and he said that was the Boston Pops. The Boston Pops. Yes, it's the bird trying to pop the bubble. So there were other things too, but I thought that was an amusing one that I remember.
Anything mentioned about St. Augustine?
No, he didn't talk about St. Augustine at all. No.
In fact, he won't talk about cities. He will not. I'll tell you a funny story. When Boston came out, we desperately wanted to get it. Authenticated, right? Because we didn't necessarily know what was going on on Expedition Unknown's side, but we wanted at least the community to know one had been found. So we reached out to a couple of people. We reached out to Joellen Trilling, who told us she couldn't comment, and we reached out to John Palancar, who said, "I don't think there's one in Boston." So there you go. Anything that you hear from the creators of the creators of the hunt really liked Byron, and they'll give you misinformation. Like if you try to reach out to them, they'll give you misinformation. They'll give you just outright wrong information. They'll lie about it. They will not help. So it doesn't surprise me that he really didn't say anything.
Right.
I want to thank you first for setting up 12 Treasures website and reviewing that. All right. I know you had stated somewhere, I either heard it on the podcast or heard it on Facebook or read it on Facebook, that you were going to basically crowdsource big spots or certain previous to eliminate duplicate requests, and especially for Mr. Fraser, that might help him in his world with duplicate requests, and certainly would help others from not digging places that have already been done. Is that still going to happen?
So the question is whether or not we're going to basically whether or not we're going to make a map of dig spots. We're going to try. The problem is you can't trust people. You know,
well, like here you can control it. So
well, yeah, here we could make a map of the Fountain of Youth and log everywhere that's been done.
Absolutely. Yeah, we can do it legally anyway.
I was also going to make a suggestion is that when you have those data points, you can just have verified and unverified flags on them too.
Yeah.
So those
and the other part you were talking about, I think on the podcast, is you were going to bury some casques and do some GPR tests.
Yes.
Because we don't, he talked about them being previously GPR. So I guess part of the question is are you still going to do that? The other part is if it's already been GPR, you're still honoring requests for previously GPR spots that haven't been done.
If they're close to, you can get the GPR pretty close, but you can't get it right up against something. So if somebody wanted to dig in a particular area at the base of, say, an old magnolia tree stump next to the wall on Magnolia Avenue, if they really wanted to do that, I would probably allow it. I'd say, yep, that's you're specific. You got a good spot. Your theory, whatever your theory is, if I can make sense of why it is you believe what you do, and I won't try to change your mind. I'll do what I can to facilitate digging in that particular spot, even though there was a GPR very, very close to it. We're talking about a box about like that, so there's a chance that you wouldn't have gotten it, even in tree roots. We got real close to those tree roots. I mean, really close to it. But again, really hard to get to the bottom of everything. How many spots did we have there? The one day that we did the entire area between the planetarium and the green picket fence.
Yeah.
I mean, we must have had, 20 flags?
Yeah, we put...
But at the end of Jordan's beta test, the GPR readouts may affect it because you're going to inflow the docks, you're going to fill it with water, fill it with dirt, so you're going to have a different GPR signal.
So that's already done.
Yeah, but we had GPR experts that were telling us plant a flag wherever there's a possible casque, and there were like John said, so many of them. There were like 20 of them.
Yep.
People are really putting their faith in GPRs when they shouldn't. If a crack, like look, this box, if there's a crack in this box and mud gets into it, you're essentially looking for packed dirt around something made out of packed dirt, right? The GPR is not going to see it very well. So while we wish GPRs were like a miracle cure for this hunt, they're just not.
Yeah, they're not.
Right. It's been almost 40 years that the boxes are in the ground, so I don't know if we're ever gonna find one that's whole again. It will probably just be pieces, and I don't think a GPR is gonna pick that up.
You can use a handheld Magellan device that'll geolocate within 10th of a foot of any geolocation.
Okay.
So I know all about that technology.
Okay. Cool. Someone suggested a handheld Magellan.
Or another type device that would do the same thing.
Okay.
Wow.
Okay.
I didn't know that existed.
Oh, you're talking about for the dig spots, basically a GPS. Yes. Okay, handheld GPS. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then those could be geo-referenced and put into a GIS system, and then they can be reported electronically.
Right.
Yeah.
Getting people to access a GIS map, though.
They can be easily readable to anyone.
Can you?
Users.
Okay.
And by the way, making maps of where people have dug, that might work at the Fountain of Youth, but most places are not going to verify or not verify. Like, for example, the Elizabethan Gardens in Roanoke, they actually put on their website, the treasure is not here. As if they know. But they don't want people digging, you will be shot on sight, so they're not going to let anybody dig. So
do we have anything else?
For Mr. Fraser, this isn't a question per se, just a extension of a thank you, I think, from all of us here for still allowing us to send in solves or theories and still giving us the opportunity to come pro board dig. So,
Well, be patient with us, though. Please be patient with us, because ever since every time it's on Expedition Unknown, You know, they look at it and they go, oh, St. Augustine. They start looking. So we are getting a lot more, and I'll do what I can to facilitate what I can and answer questions. You know, that's one of the reasons why I'm doing this is just, you know, trying to just, you know, get enough questions out there where folks know that that there was no owl here in 1981. There was no, you know, no dock, no this, no that. Things have changed. You know, some of the landmarks.
We appreciate every second you give.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. We're happy to do it.
Do you think we'll find them all? You think they've been destroyed,
Yeah.
building and excavating?
I don't think. I think 80 years from now, somebody will be looking for the last couple of them.
Yeah, and the ground changes so much too. I mean, whether it's sprinkler lines that are dug, foundations of new buildings, that building, this building. I mean, there's so much trees that pop out and go in. I mean, someone that doesn't know what I know or what all you know about it could throw it away and not know that it was important. So.
But you know, with advanced technology, how it advances, eventually, I think that we'll have the technology where we could do X-rays of the ground, and I think that's when we'll find them all.
Well, they can drain the ocean. They just haven't been able to empty soil.
Right.
So,
gotcha.
I guess.
Okay, so someone wants to come in and probe or dig. What's the proper protocol for doing that?
Well, the thing I would recommend doing is put it in writing. Put it in writing, send a letter to the Fountain of Youth. As of now, I'm reviewing all the requests, but admittedly, I'm at a point now where I have a tremendous number of them, and I'm taking care of them, a couple of them a week, and calling people back and taking care of that. But emails, while they might be great for a lot of folks, emails are not good for us, not good for me, because you were right in there with about 300 to 350 other folks. And admittedly, 300 of them are advertisements, as everyone knows. But I have a tremendous amount of them. I don't, if I go a couple of days, you try to adjust your spam filter, and then sometimes they go into spam. So the letter works out really well. I mean, it really does. And if you want to send it, not overnight, because that's a lot of money, but if you send it, priority, believe me, it kind of, you don't have to do that. But everybody's got something. I mean, I could tell you, I don't want to tell you a few of the other things, but to get attention, folks have done a number of interesting things, and they've gotten my attention. At the very least, you get a phone call back real quickly. You get some questions answered, or and the like. We do what we can.
So
it's funny though.
We have a question.
So last question.
Last question.
Last question.
What would happen if I get caught digging?
I was
Yes.
Thank you.
Very good.
So
John.
we had an audience member make the comment. They know they were joking, but they said, "Just come in at 3 a.m." So what's going to happen to that person that shows up at 3 a.m. to dig without permission?
Well, here's the deal. If you show up at 3 a.m. and one of the cameras happens to catch you, then the security, they contact the police show up, and the police arrest you if you're on the property. If you're here during the day, and you would be really surprised how many folks during the day, between the hours of 9 and 5, come in here with a probe down their legs, a shovel up their back, whatever it is, it's amazing to me. And they will just go to a spot and just start digging. If they're caught probing, they're nicely asked to go back to the car and please put the probe in the car. And then if you want to come back, you can come back. We allow them to do that. It's a mistake. Yeah, I know. They probably snuck a thing in. If we catch them, the best thing for us to do is just to catch them at the ticket office. If they come in and they actually start digging a hole, then we call the police immediately. Police get called. The police do come in. In rare circumstances, they don't call the police, especially if children are involved, and because we don't want to scare the heck out of the kids. But we really do try to make it good for the folks to do things the right way. But the cameras at night are an interesting thing. We have had the police here. I've actually been here, and I've had some of the funniest conversations with folks that have jumped the fence at 10 a.m., 3 a.m. Most of them are drunk. Most of them have been drinking. And then they come over and they go, well, what do you want to do? I don't want to go home now. Hey, we got this treasure thing here. Let's go take a look at the Fountain of Youth. What do you think? Oh, just, they come in and they fall on the ground. They fall on the Spanish bayonets. They got cuts on their hands. And the police are always there, and it's a lot of fun. He has their fun because now everybody in the police department knows about the whole thing, and so they go, Fraser, here you go. We got to go to the park again. Let's go. Yes, ma'am.
So just as far as if someone's going to send you mail, do other people open your mail, or how do you ensure that you actually?
No, if you mail, that's another thing, I hate to reveal all the secrets of a dinosaur organization like the one I have here, but I open every piece of mail. It doesn't matter whether it's a bill, an advertisement, a check, a complaint letter. I open every single piece of mail. I read every single thing that comes through here, every single letter, whether I'm on vacation or not. If I am on vacation, yes, they do get opened by other folks, but I get a stack of everything and a copy of everything that happens to be sent to the accountant. So anything you send to John Fraser, care of the Fountain of Youth Archaeological Park, or Fountain Youth Park, or Ponce de Leon Incorporated, whatever, I'm gonna see it. I mean, unless I'm sick, good Lord willing, I'll see it, I'll stack it, I'll respond to it. The easy ones, I'll get back like that. The difficult ones, it's gonna take a while because I do have a stack in my office right now that are amazing, but I'm doing the best I can with that. And maybe one day you'll get a call from somebody else, but right now it's me, and it's only me because no one else really knows the whole story as well as I do. So anyway, that's how to do it. And I read it all.
You guys are doing this all over. You're following all 12.
Yeah.
That's the plan.
Superman over here. Yeah, it's Superman.
You got any closing comments?
No, I just want to thank everybody for coming out and attending. I mean, you guys are amazing.
Yeah, thanks for coming.
Thank you to the community members that are watching online, and obviously to the ones that are going to listen to this podcast. We really appreciate your involvement. The community is what it's all about, so thank you very much. We want everybody to have an opportunity to see the casque. Again, just a reminder, please don't touch it. It's already broken enough. But please, if you would like to see the casque kind of file in a line on that side of the room, would be awesome. And if you have not received a bag yet, a thank you bag, we're trying to do one per group. So if your group has not received one, please come and get one.
This is complimentary.
Yeah. Very cool.
Okay.
Thank you, John. Thank you, Brian. Nobody said that.
Thank you guys.
Very welcome. Very welcome.
Being here and bringing this for us. John already.
Okay, you ready? Hey, everybody. Excuse us. We're about to get started. We're hoping you will do us all a favor. Andy Abrams was the second person who found Cleveland. He couldn't be here today, but he's on the phone. Would everybody say hi?
Did you hear that?
I love it!
Can you hear that?
No, they can't hear
Can you hear me?
Can you hear him?
No, they can't.
Yeah, can you hear me?
No, but they'll hear it in the podcast.
They hear him. He's loud. Okay.
All right.
All right. Yes, you can.